Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk live on YouTube and StreamYard.com. It is Girl MF Michael Flecha alongside Anthony Florio. We are hoping and awaiting the arrival of Michael Bullock. If he joins us, then we'll obviously let him. We'll catch him up on what he missed. If we don't, then we will definitely see him on tomorrow night as we'll be recapping AEW All In from London. As many of you guys know, on Thursday, WWE, and not for that, and not only that, but the entire wrestling world was stunned, shocked, and heartbroken over the news that Wyndham Rotundo, best known as Bray Wyatt, passed away at only the rightful age of 36 years old. And that, I think, is the heartbreaker of everything. Bray is survived by a previous wife from his first marriage, and of course, JoJo Offerman, who was his current wife, and 4 children. 2 that was from his first marriage, and 2 that he had with JoJo. It's without a doubt that this man, in his 36 years of life, brought absolutely the best quality of wrestling that a man has ever done. He revolutionized wrestling in his storytelling, in his creative, and his characters. From the Wyatt family, that was his calling card that started in NXT, to come to the main roster and have this cult-like following that was second to none. And without a doubt, the most powerful thing we've ever had in professional wrestling, and is still to this day one of the most powerful things we've ever witnessed. Then to reinvent himself, turning into this fiend character where you had like 2 sides. There was the Bray Wyatt, the Firefly Funhouse, and then the Fiend. That was the more evil, devilish side of him. And it was without a doubt the most incredible thing we ever saw in wrestling. And his character growth is what made him a star and made him beloved by millions of fans around the world. Outside of the ring, he was going through a lot of tough times. Um, Many that we knew on camera, and stuff that we did not know, that's now coming out since his passing that went down on Thursday. He was very affected by his death of his fellow brethren, Mr. Brody Lee, that was Luke Harper. And we knew that had an effect on him. And it definitely affected him in more of a way than I think all of us would have realized, of the close bond that these 2 men had. To now, we found out that actually earlier this year he suffered COVID, and he had a heart condition, and that it almost took him away from us earlier in the year. He overcame that, survived it, and was doing really well. Some people thought he was possibly on his way back to WWE and on his way to making a return in the ring, which I think we all were excited for. And then the announcement that none of us wanted it to hear, None of us wanted it to believe. And we all thought it was a joke at first. When Triple H made the announcement on his Twitter or X that Bray Wyatt had passed away. Some people at first thought that, oh, Triple H's account was hacked. We all thought it was. But then Sean Ross Sapp said something about it. Then other outlets were saying about it. Wrestling Forum's Derek Ferreira was the first of the podcast community to report it. Dee Woodson, who was the first to report it on our side, representing Talking Wrestling TXN. She was the first to report it for our crew. No, it was not Michael Bullock. It was not Anthony Florio. It was not myself. It was Dee Woodson, who was the first to report it to the world that Bray Wyatt had died. And for the last 2 days, all we could just think about is, what were we going to say? What was that lasting image, or what was going to be the thing that people wanted it to hear? I know a couple of my friends, family, was asking me about the death, wanting my thoughts, wanting my opinion, wanting my anything. I've never been this affected on a death in a very, very long time. Just the mere fact that he was 36 years old. I mean, I'm 40. And I'll admit that. I'm 40 years old. Bray Wyatt was still in his prime of his career. His wrestling career was not done. And to be taken away from us at that age, it's heartbreaking. It almost makes me question why. Why did this happen? How could this happen? It's a gut shot. I think we all got stunned, body blowed, and I think we're still, many of us still haven't recovered from this shocking death. For what it's worth, I think Alexa Bliss, when she talked about it on social media, said all the right things. He was a genius. He was so creative with his characters that it made such an impact in wrestling. And no matter if it was a good guy or a bad guy, you always listened to what he did. You marvel at his greatness because it almost felt like the modern day Macho Man Randy Savage, if you think about it that way. Where Macho Man took anything that creative threw him, and he weaved this masterpiece of a promo or a vignette or something, and it was so effective, and you're like, wow. One of the biggest ones that I remember was when Bray Wyatt came back, and he was still that Bray Wyatt, and he really kind of did something that not many does. In a way, he broke a fourth wall. And his promo, even though, yes, it did bring out Uncle Howdy and how he was trying to goat Bray into embracing the darkness. But the thing was, Bray humanized himself in that promo, talking about that he was going through a lot. He was going through some of his own personal demons. And you felt the connection of that storyline. You felt the connection of the promo. And that's what Bray Wyatt does every time. He took something, made it relatable, and connected it in such a way that many few just can't in wrestling. And that's why he's such a unique character. That's why he was such a, a great individual. And it also breaks my heart, devastates my heart to know that not only is the wrestling community mourning, but his 4 children. That is the biggest takeaway of it all. Is that 2 I think are like close to teenage years, and the other 2 are probably no more than maybe just a few years old, maybe 3 or 4. I know one is like maybe 3 or 4 years old, and I think the other one's like maybe 2 or 3. And it just hurts so much, and it devastates. My thoughts and prayers are with the Wyatt family. My thoughts and prayers are with the Rotundo family. I mean, Mike Rotundo, IRS, to Bo Dallas, who was his brother, his entire family, including his 2 wives, and JoJo as well, and his 4 children. And to everybody who was either blessed or touched or had a minute to either in the ring, outside of the ring, who was affiliated or associated with the Wyatt family or that storyline or the years that he did. The wrestling community lost a revolutionary individual that shifted and guided an era of wrestling that will never be forgotten. The accolades that Anthony Florio will drop on us in just a moment is Hall of Fame worthy. And yes, there's already talks and there's already people that's already saying that this man deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I have no arguments. He deserves it. Normally, it's hard when we do these type of memorials or eulogies for professional wrestlers who passed away. I think one of the harder ones that I've ever dealt with was Eddie Guerrero, because of the fact of what Eddie meant to me. And Bray meant so much to not just the Talking Wrestling TXN family, but to people that I know from companies that I follow in professional wrestling, to close friends and colleagues of mine who I consider near friends of mine and who loved, who worshipped Bray Wyatt. This man did something in wrestling that will never be the same again. So with that, tonight, we honor Bray Wyatt. We honor Wyndham Rotundo. And we say to you, thank you for everything you've done for the wrestling business. Your vision, your creativity, and what you brought to that company, to the WWE, and to the Legion of Fireflies, to your flock, to your buzzards, the Wyatt 7. from the Fiend to what you brought when you first started in NXT has been cultivating, capsulating, and you, my friend, was a visionary and an innovation that blessed us, and we're grateful and thankful for you and what you brought to professional wrestling. I really have nothing more to say. Rest in peace, brother. I hope you and Brody Lee have been reunited, and we hope that you look down on Eric Rowan, on Luke Harper, your godson, -1, who was Brody Lee Jr., to your children, and to all the fans who's been giving you the fireflies, who said thank you, Wyatt, last night, and to all the people that you're gonna be receiving the love from tomorrow at AEW All In, and to the millions of fans that mourns you, that loves you, and appreciates everything you've done. Rest easy, my friend. Live in paradise forever. God bless, and thank you for everything you've done. With that said, Anthony Florio, please come on in. It is yours, my friend.
You remember I was gutted the other day, and I tell you what, I'm even more gutted after hearing those words, MF. Oh my goodness. Wow. Very beautifully and well said, MF. Longfellow could not have said that any better. No doubt about it. Yeah. This one obviously is gonna hurt because, anytime someone dies, it's one thing, but especially if it's somebody that's younger than you, oh man. I mean, he was only 36. I mean, you're 40. I just turned 40 myself, and I know what it's like to have heart issues because I've had tests done on them, on my heart there, and it's fine. But there were some abnormal things about it. But in a way, I kind of have one, but it's not like all serious or anything. But nonetheless, Bray Wyatt, an absolute visionary and one of the most creative minds that you can ever, like you could ever think. And the whole thing with the original Wyatt family, and then with the Fiend was pretty much the most successful thing he had, and a man who was very criminally underutilized creatively. I mean, I'm glad he had title runs, but the thing both of those title runs were ended prematurely and by unnecessary talents who did not really need those title runs. You remember in 2017 in the Elimination Chamber, he won the WWE Championship. He should have had a decent run with that thing. But no, he only had it 7 weeks because they fed him to Randy Orton. And with all due respect to Randy Orton should not have won the title that night. Bray Wyatt should have gone over. He should have successfully defended and had a nice little run with it. That was one thing. But what really did it, what really killed him, MF, creatively, was when they fed him to Bill Goldberg at Saudi Arabia. Yeah. No. After that, he really was not the same creatively after that. He had some great moments. I mean, winning the WWE Championship will obviously be the greatest moment. But as we take a look at the championships, as we look at his resume here, it may not be as lengthy as Terry Funk's, but it is a decent resume though. CBS Sports in 2019 voted him Comeback Wrestler of the Year. Florida Championship Wrestling was a 2-time FCW Florida Tag Team Champion with his brother, Bo Rotundo, Bo Dallas. The New York Post, believe it or not, awarded him Best Return last October at Extreme Rules 2022 in Philadelphia. We all remember that. PWI, Feud of the Year 2010, The Nexus versus WWE. He was a member of The Nexus. He was known as Husky Harris, as we all remember, when he first came in. The Army tank with the Ferrari engine. I remember that. 2014 PWI Match of the Year versus John Cena, the Last Man Standing match at Payback. Absolutely. That was a 5-star classic. Go out of your way to see it if you haven't. Most Hated Wrestler of the Year 2010 as part of the Nexus. And PWI 2014 ranked him number 6 of the top 500 singles wrestlers in the PWI 500 in 2014. WrestleCrap gave him the Gooker Award in 2019 versus Seth Rollins, the Hell in a Cell match, the infamous Hell in a Cell match. We all know the outrage that we all had with that. We were so outraged that we didn't even bother doing a recap show that night. We were so angry about it. Wrestling Observer Newsletter, 2013, Best Gimmick as part of the Wyatt family. 2019, Best Gimmick again as The Fiend. 2020, Most Overrated. 2017, The Worst Gimmick as Sister Abigail. 2020, Worst Gimmick as The Fiend. 2017, Worst Feud of the Year. He won 4 Worst Feud of the Year awards. 2017, Worst Feud of the Year with Randy Orton. 2019, Worst Feud of the Year with Seth Rollins. 2020, Worst Feud of the Year with Braun Strowman. And 2021 versus Randy Orton, Worst Feud of the Year. That also included involvement from Alexa Bliss. Worst Work Match of the Year, 2014 versus John Cena at Extreme Rules. 2017, Worst Work Match of the Year versus Randy Orton, WrestleMania 33. Agreed. Those creepy visuals I still have nightmares about. 2019, Worst Match of the Year, Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell. Absolutely. And then 2020, Worst Match of the Year versus Braun Strowman at the horror show at Extreme Rules, that Florida dump match or whatever that was. And then in WWE, a former WWE champion, 2-time Universal champion, a 1-time Raw Tag Team champion with Matt Hardy, 1-time SmackDown Tag Team champion with Luke Harper and Randy Orton. They defended it as the Wyatt family under the Freebird rule. Matt Hardy, along with Matt Hardy, won the Tag Team Eliminator Tournament in 2018. And then 2019, Male Wrestler of the Year for WWE Year-End Award. So that's the resume there. So, but man, I mean, it's very gut-wrenching, you know. I mean, JoJo's one thing, but it's the youngins, as I call them, the kids. You know, you call them the kiddos, you call them the youngins. I call them the youngins. That's the old school in me. I mean, especially those 2 little ones with JoJo. I think one is 3 or 4 and the other's about 2 or 3. So, man alive. I mean, that's who you really, you know, that's who your heart really aches for. I mean, not just JoJo, not just his father, Mike Rotundo, IRS, brother Bo Dallas, and, you know, Barry Windham and Kendall Windham. You know, that is one hell of a lineage, man. I mean, Bo Dallas is his brother. Blackjack Mulligan was his grandfather, and Barry and Kendall Windham are his uncles. I mean, that's definitely one of the great wrestling families of all time, right up there with the Harts and the Guerreros. And, you know, MF, you talked about how Eddie Guerrero got to you. Well, Owen Hart got to me because you know of my love for the Hart family and how much the Hart family means to me. And God forbid when the Lord calls Bret Hart home, yeah, I'm gonna be an emotional wreck when Bret passes, because you know how much he means to me. But I've been, you know, very, you know, shaken up by this whole thing, and especially when it's somebody so young. And this has been a horrible week we've lost. I mean, we lost Terry Funk, we lost Bray Wyatt, and then earlier today we lose one of the greatest game show hosts of all time, Bob Barker. You know, just less than 4 months shy of what would have been his 100th birthday. And And Bob Barker actually does have wrestling ties, because you remember Bob Barker, served as a guest host of Monday Night Raw, September 7th, 2009 in Chicago. And we'll never forget that legendary moment with him and Chris Jericho, which was one of the great moments of all time, one of the funny moments of all time, one of the few comedy moments that was actually pretty funny, if I'm going to be honest. And, I've slammed their comedy nonsense for years and continue to do this day. But nonetheless, three icons, MF. Terry Funk, Bray Wyatt, and now and then today with Bob Barker. I mean, brutal week. That's all I can say. Brutal week, and for saying goodbye to three men who, Terry Funk, who revolutionized hardcore wrestling, pretty much put hardcore wrestling on the map. Bray Wyatt, way too young, 36 years old. That is insane. But, Uncle COVID strikes again, and the heart attack was brought on by COVID. COVID, exacerbated it. But man, one of the most creative young minds that I've ever seen. I mean, the reinvention and the whole 9 yards, and just an all-time great, and the impact that he had on, with his peers and everybody else, and just one of the all-time greats. And I'm just I haven't really been the same since this whole thing happened. But as I keep saying, life, like I said the other night, life, it's, I mean, not every day is guaranteed. I mean, if you wake up in the morning, thank the Lord for giving you another day of life. I mean, you never know. The Lord could call you home at any time. And always, and I'll say it again, be thankful for the time you have left with people, and always tell them how you feel, and but Bray Wyatt, man, just an all-time, just someone. I mean, it may have creeped you out, and I mean, a lot of that was creepy stuff, but he made it work, man. He really did. And I mean, nobody had anything, but nobody hardly had anything bad to say about Terry Funk, and same thing about Bray Wyatt, man. And that's just how respected he was by his peers and the fans and family and friends. So on behalf of all of us here at Talking Wrestling TXN, our thoughts and our prayers and our condolences to JoJo, the kids, and to Mike Rotundo, IRS, Bo Dallas, and Barry Windham and Kendall Windham. I mean, to the entire family, not just his family, but also his friends, his fans, and of course, everyone who was fortunate and blessed enough to work with this creative genius. And it's just a damn shame that, that he didn't have, he could have been an all-timer, MF. He could have been an all-timer, but creative. McMagma and his creative. He really wasn't the same after the Bill Goldberg thing. So, and what really does it is, they said he was making progress, and then all of a sudden this goes and happens. And I kept saying to myself, please let this be fake news. Please let this be fake news. Nope. No troglodyte out there to, it was not a troglodyte at all. Unfortunately, it was real, and it was damn real, man. So, damn, this one sucks. Not that Terry Funk and Bob Barker don't suck either, but this one especially sucks, 36 years old, that is way, way, way too damn young. But the only consolation is he's not suffering anymore. So on behalf of all of us here at Talking Wrestling TXN, we want to take this moment to say what we always say, and that is to Bray Wyatt, on behalf of all of us here, and of course all of your fans around the world, thank you for the memories. Thank you for the inspiration. But thank you for Bray Wyatt, alias Wyndham Rotunda. Rest easy, brother. It's very hard to move on, MF, but in this case, the show must and will go on.
Yes, indeed. And we start out with SmackDown Live from Louisville, Kentucky, at the KFC Young Center. Um, and it was apropos. They started with the images of Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt on the Titantron. Uh, every member of the WWE family on the stage itself. Um, and they did the traditional 10 bell salute, and they did a tribute that was to celebrate the life of both men. Um, it was powerful. It was emotional. There, I don't think there was a dry eye in the building. Literally, the first 10 minutes, and if you cried, I would not have blamed you. It was really powerful. To see Eric Rowan and Braun Strowman there, front and center, was that was a scene for in itself. Um, so we started off with the in-ring action. Rey Mysterio going one-on-one with Grayson Waller. Rey Mysterio winning the match in 12 minutes and 4 seconds. It was solid. Solid opener, but nothing that we'll talk about. It was like I said, it was fun for what it was worth, but there was some storyline progression because of the fact that um, Austin Theory did invoke his rematch clause, and it will be at the premium live event, which I believe is Payback. That will happen, I believe next week, next Saturday. So, like I said, it served its purpose. And the thing was, we were hearing that there wasn't going to be much storyline stuff. It was like no promos or anything, but they did the wrestling. So I'm cool with that. I think this was a fine match for what it was worth. And yeah, this was a solid match. So I say about maybe 2.5 to 3. Well, actually 3 stars. So Anthony, it's yours.
3.25. Solid competitive match. Saw Mysterio in control until Theory interrupted and Santos Escobar made the save. The action broke down with both outside influencers impacting the bout, but ultimately Ray scored the win. Based on the stare down between the LWO, Theory, and Waller that concluded the segment, it would certainly appear as though we're headed for a tag team match, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Mysterio and Escobar versus Theory and Waller this Friday night on Smackdown in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And considering the talent involved, that's hardly a bad thing. And yes, it is a Payback. It will be at Payback. And as for Payback, expect a solid match between Mysterio and Theory that ends most likely with the heel regaining a title he probably never should have lost. If you want to make the argument for that. And because we got a lot to get into here, I'm not going to do my traditional after match thoughts that I usually do. So 3.25. MF, let's continue on here.
All right, it was Io Sky. She put it the WWE Women's title on the line against Zelina Vega, and it was Io Sky winning the match in 7 minutes and 44 seconds. So Anthony, it's yours.
2.5, 2.75. Sky and Vega tore the house down in a really fun, energetic title bout that demonstrated how good the champion is and how underrated an in-ring worker the spunky underdog Vega is. Damage Control retained its control over the division by way of Io's victory, but Vega proves she is a legitimate contender and someone who should be in the hunt more consistently, especially given the fans' reaction to her in Louisville. 2.5, 2.75. MF, your thoughts?
Yeah, 2.5, 2.75, solid match. It was a good battle, and you know what? This was a match that was highly publicized. So I'm glad WWE decided to continue it and actually pull the trigger and do this match. They easily could have walked away from this fight. They could have, but they didn't. They decided they wanted it to do a couple of status quo things, so we're fine with that. This was one of them, and it was a solid match. So there was really nothing more to add there. Then Cody Rhodes came out, cut it a promo, and he talked a little bit about Bray Wyatt, but it was mainly about Terry Funk. This was Cody talking about more about Terry Funk, and he talked about reminiscing of, obviously he brought up the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, which was perfect, and talking about an incident that happened at an airport in Texas that had Terry Funk calling Dusty Rhodes an egg sucking dog. Well, talk about not being PG there. And even Cody asked Michael, he's like, am I allowed to say that on TV? Well, it's out now. Well, I actually found out, and I don't think he got himself in trouble with Fox, with the Fox network. I don't think so. I think because I don't think an egg sucking dog is. I know it's not PG, but I don't think he ruffled the feathers. Let's say that. But his promo about Terry Funk was absolutely spot on, a brilliant tribute. It was amazing. Then we had a hardcore tag team fight, as it was Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, the Street Profits, versus Rich Holland and Butch of the Brawling Brutes. And it ended up being the Street Profits winning the match 13 minutes and 56 seconds. Okay. A lot of people slammed this fight, which I understand. Because a lot of people were like, if you're going to say hardcore match, why was there not enough hardcore in it? And especially if you're trying to celebrate the life of Terry Funk with this match, some people felt like WWE did a disservice to it. Now, don't get me wrong. I get they were going for a PG level match. I know it was Fox Network. Maybe Fox was like, maybe they were trying to be a little more careful because it's network TV. So I get the criticism. And there was a heavy amount of criticism, but not from WWE fans, more from IWC fans. They definitely came out in full force last night and was like, what is this? That this was more of a softcore match more than hardcore. And I get it, and I definitely agree. But for what it was worth, it was still a solid match. Yes, you didn't get the pure violence that you needed or something like that. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But it was still a solid tag team match that I felt. My rating for the fight, I'll give it another 3 stars. I thought it was a solid match. Yes, I'm disappointed because it wasn't the pure hardcore element of it. But, you're not going to please everybody with this one. So, Anthony, it's yours.
What was the time of the fall again?
13:57.
I'm still going to give it 3.5 to 3 3/4. But here's the thing, MF. You're absolutely right. I mean, if you're going to call this an ECW era Funker Brawl, where were the weapons? I mean, there should have been weapons, mass weapons during this match. I mean, yeah, you brought them out at the end, but that was too little too late. But still, the match was hard-hitting and physical. And while it may not have featured the chairs and ladders of an ECW-era Funker Brawl, it was a good match between two great tag teams that continued the upward momentum of Ford and Dawkins as they prepared for their Hurt Business partnership with Bobby Lashley. Look for more of this for the victors as they build momentum for whatever the finished product will ultimately look like. A continuation of this feud would hardly be a bad thing if the quality of this match is any indication. 3.5 to 3 3/4. I could have gone higher, but the thing was, it was not quite the Terry Funk style hardcore brawl that that they called this. So, but the match was great though. But I would have liked to have seen some more weapon usage, if that makes sense. So. 3.5, 3 3/4. You could call for fight of the night on this if you wanted to. So with that, MF, we move on to the main event featuring two very prominent Bray Wyatt opponent. One was one of Bray Wyatt's great rivalries, and the other only maybe the most over guy right now in WWE, who actually ended up being officially Bray Wyatt's last match in that infamous Mountain Dew Pitch Black match at the Royal Rumble.
Yes, indeed. But before we got there, LA Knight came out, cut it a promo, and a lot of people loved it. They actually said if there was ever a guy that was able to eulogize for Bray Wyatt, this guy was it. You saw how he talked about the greatest foes can be the greatest helpers, and he credited Wyatt for doing that. Then he turned his attention to the Miz, and he subtly rips the Miz with a mannerism of Wyatt, the look, that attitude, and said that I'm going to use a phrase that someone told him a long time ago. The next time you see me, run. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Then it was the match. Finn Balor versus LA Knight. LA Knight wins the match 11 minutes and 14 seconds. And then after the match was over, lights went out. A lantern was shown in the ring. And Bray Wyatt's image was on the big screen as the fans got to yell out, "Thank you, Wyatt," one more time as the show went off the air. I don't think you could have written it any better than that. Anthony Florio, you get the say and give us your rating on that match.
Main event was a good, solid pro wrestling match that highlighted LA Knight against the top heel and allowed him to score a definitive victory over a former Universal Champion. His tribute to Bray Wyatt promo on The Miz ahead of their match at Payback, which, oh, by the way, that'll take place next week, and the crowd's reaction to all of it came together to result in the most significant utilization of LA Knight as a potential main event star in WWE yet. He was the guy on this episode, and the crowd accepted him in that role, even under the difficult circumstances surrounding the broadcast. On a tough night, he rose to the occasion, and that is something the backstage powers that be absolutely took notice to. 3.25 to 3.5 for the bout. And as far as the overall show goes, I know I might be overrating the hell out of this, but I don't care. This was 9.5. Hell, you could make an argument for perfect 10 if you wanted to. No one can possibly understand the amount of hurt in the locker room last night. The men and women who took to the squared circle last night did so with heavy hearts, still processing the passing of their friend and grieving his loss. They could have easily shown up and gone through the motions, and there would not have been a single person who faulted them for it. Instead, they turned in spirited performances that honored their WWE family member and continued some key stories entering next Saturday's Payback pay-per-view. It was a tough night, but a beautiful one that not only celebrated the life of Bray Wyatt, but also honored the late, great Terry Funk. Under the worst circumstances imaginable, they rose to the occasion and delivered as strong a show as possible. 9 to 9.5. And hell, if you wanted to give it a perfect 10, I would not fault you at all. So there isn't anything left for me to say on this. So, MF, your overall review, and then we'll get into the taped collision.
I have to go 9.5, and I'll even openly admit it, and I'll even say this. I think this was without a doubt one of the best shows that SmackDown has done in a very long time. And I will openly admit that this was incredible. This was what it needed it to be. 2 hours just for us to have a little bit of a release. 2 hours for us to kind of get a minute to reflect. And as fans, they entertained us for those 2 hours on SmackDown. And when it comes to wrestling events, and I know we don't get these many tribute shows, but we were moved to great emotions thanks to AEW when they honored Mr. Brody Lee. And I feel like this was WWE's magical moment. They had one with Eddie Guerrero. They had one when Owen Hart passed away on that Monday Night Raw. They had one when Brian Pillman passed away on Monday Night Raw. But the case of everything was that for WWE to encapsulate not just the passing of Bray Wyatt, not just the passing of Wyndham Rotundo, but to also honor Terry Funk and to do it in a way that they did. WWE deserves to be applauded. And that's not many times have we gotten a chance to say for WWE to take a bow. But what they did last night, what the men and women did last night, under those circumstances, Anthony, you absolutely hit it spot on, is a testament to the greatness of the company because of the love and the support that they did. And one other thing that was actually left out, that was actually done behind the scenes that I just found out about a couple hours ago. Roman Reigns actually went to the house of Bray Wyatt's family. I think he went to see JoJo and the kids. And I'm telling you this for the first time, Anthony. He actually surrendered the Universal Championship and told them that you keep this belt. This belt is yours. It belongs to Bray, and nobody else is ever going to hold this title. He has officially surrendered the Universal Championship, and he surrendered it tonight. That is remarkable. That's unbelievable. To say
yo. Say what you want about Roman. Say what you want about this whole tribal chief nonsense and whatnot, but
that was
in the immortal words of Gorilla Monsoon, real stand-up kind of guy right there.
Yeah. And it is confirmed. It was reported by multiple sites. Sean Ross Sapp has indeed confirmed it, that Roman Reigns paid a visit to the Rotundo family and actually did present the Universal Championship to them. The belt has officially been retired. So we will never, ever see the Universal Championship ever see the light of day ever again. It's been officially been retired. So
what does that mean for his undisputed Universal Championship?
Basically, now what that means is it now reverts back to now being the undisputed WWE champion. So now as it should. So now he goes back, and now he'll be, and as a matter of fact, I haven't seen anything officially as of yet from WWE, but there is talks that what it would be now is that Roman Reigns would be considered or classified as the undisputed WWE champion. So Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion. Roman Reigns will now be classified as the undisputed WWE champion. So,
and he'll still and the reign will still be recognized at over 1,000 or so days, right?
Yes. Okay. That will not be altered. That has not been changed. Because the reign actually did start with the WWE title. Or actually, no, it started
with the Universal title.
Started with the Universal title
3 years ago. 3 years ago, this Wednesday, the 30th. Yeah.
Merged.
Which will be 3 years.
Was merged with the WWE Championship, but the title, now the lineage of that belt will still go on. Roman Reigns will officially be declared the final champion of the Universal Championship era, where Finn Balor was the first. Roman Reigns will close the era as Universal Champion. Now, there is talk that if Roman wanted to do this, he did actually, I think I'm being told, now I don't know if this is true or not, that he would surrender the belt and then the belt would be recognized as Bray Wyatt's and Wyatt would be declared the final champion of the undisputed, of the Universal Championship era. And that would be that. So we'll see.
Awesome.
We're still waiting on details on that part, but I do know for sure the Universal title is with the Wyatt family tonight, or with the Rotundo family tonight, I should say.
As it should.
As it should. So, and actually, because of the fact that I think Bray Wyatt was the first Universal Champion under the Smackdown banner, that's why we also have that too. But
and he was a great frontline soldier for SmackDown too.
Yes, absolutely. So
big difference. He was one of the big guns for your show SmackDown, right up there with AJ Styles and anybody else you could imaginably think of.
Absolutely, no doubt about it, no doubt. All right, so with that said, we are going to move on to, like Anthony alluded to, a taped version of AEW Collision. Of course, the reason why is because all the talent is in London. They're getting ready for the All In event. This was the go home show for All In, and Collision was the episode. They taped this back at Duluth, Georgia, at the Gas South Arena, and here we go. So we started it off with a promo segment by Hook. Well, actually, no, Jack Perry cut it a promo. It was fine for what it was worth, really. Nothing too amazing. Quick, strong, effective more than anything else. Gave them some nice heat going into Wembley for the show tomorrow. Then we started out with a tag team matchup, as it was. Orange Cassidy, Pelta El Zero Miedo, and Eddie Kingston. They went up against Butcher, The Blade, and Kip Sabian. When it was all said and done, it was the Face Squad winning the match in 9 minutes and 38 seconds. Good showcase fight. Solid matchup. Of course, we're getting ready for the big one, as the Stadium Stampede fight is going down tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, I should say. Solid opener, about a 2.5 to 3 star bout. Anthony, it's yours.
Time of the fall again?
9:38 was the time of the fall.
All right. 3 stars. It took a long time for this to settle down. Once it was down to just the legal competitors fighting in the ring, the pace slowed a bit and we saw more cohesive action. This match had 6 guys who all had different styles, but they were also all-season competitors who could work against any style. So the match had plenty of great action. However, it also had some awkward moments that could have been easily avoided with some different camera angles. The Mad King scored the win for his team by pinning Sabian. He and his team celebrated as they prepared for Stadium Stampede tomorrow. So, solid 3 stars. MF, let's move on to the next relevant thing.
It was the Dark Order as they went up against Darius Martin and Action Andretti. And it was the Dark Order, yes. John Silver and Alex Reynolds winning the match in 8 minutes and 36 seconds. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Just give me a moment here. All right. This was the kind of tag team match that AEW made its name on. It was simple but effective. The rules were observed for the most part. Both teams had a chance to show off, and the crowd seemed to be having a good time. With so much happening over the next 2 weeks in AEW, it's unlikely anyone will remember this match by next week. But all 4 guys still put all of their efforts into delivering a good performance for the crowd. The Dark Order picked up a victory with a double jackknife powerbomb. Solid match from top to bottom. 3 stars. MF, your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, fine match, 3 stars. Really nothing more to say on that one. We'll just move right on along. Big Bill, squash fight in a minute 39. Dud, worst fight of the night by default. So nothing more to say on that one. Then we had Willow Nightingale versus Robin Renegade. Willow Nightingale winning in 8:35. Again, solid matchup. Not anything too special. It was more of a showcase for Willow, and she looked good in her winning in her performance. So nothing more to say. This is about 2.5 stars. Anthony, it's yours.
2.5, 2 3/4. This wasn't quite as one-sided as the Big Bill bout, but it was certainly a back and forth. But it certainly was not a back and forth struggle most of the time either. Willow got the win, but Robin Renegade did manage to get in some offense during the break while the match was being shown in picture. Decent match that got more competitive as it went, so it ended up finishing stronger than it started. AEW's women's division definitely deserves more screen time, especially when it comes to pay-per-views. With All In only having one women's bout, it would have been nice to see more on the weekly shows leading into it. 2.5, 2 3/4. Move on.
Then we had another squash fight as it was Keith Lee versus Zicky Dykes. Keith Lee winning in the minute and 35. That led us to the main event of the evening as it was a big one. An 8-man tag team fight as it was CM Punk, Darby Allin, Sting, and Hook. They went up against Jay White, Swerve Strickland, Luchasaurus, and Brian Cage. And the winners of the bout in 21 minutes and 7 seconds, the Face Squad, CM Punk, Darby Allin, Sting, and Hook. Anthony, it is yours.
Without a doubt, the fight of the night. I mean, every weekend, is it just me or MF? But does the main event every week on Collision always seem to get that much time? I mean, that's awesome. So this match had well over the final 20 minutes of the show, so all 8 competitors had a chance to be in the ring with at least one or two of their opponents at different times. We got to see quite a few combinations, but the most interesting was probably Jay White and CM Punk because they spent a lot of time talking trash to each other. With a lot of these guys competing at All In, it wasn't surprising to see some of them take it a little easy. But that doesn't mean this wasn't a fun main event. For a match with so many moving parts, they managed their time well. This was about 4.25 to 4.5 stars for the effort here. I mean, it seems like I said, every week the Collision main events are always end up always being, so fun and enjoyable. And let me see here. Yep. And with a lot of these guys competing at All In, it wasn't surprising to see some of them take it easy. But Punk's team ended up coming out on top when he hit Brian with the GTS and then locked him in Joe's own submission. As soon as it was over, Joe rushed the ring and attacked his former best friend. The show ended with everyone brawling and chaos ensuing, which seems to be a trend with go-home shows for pay-per-views in every promotion. So 4.25, I think that's about right. So not much more to say. MF, your thoughts on the main event? Another great Collision main event.
Yeah, another great Collision main event. I would say another 4-star fight. 4.25. Great action all the way around. No surprise that the face team was going to get the win here. So no, it was still a great matchup, great battle. So at the end of the day, I'd say another 8.5 to 9. Now I'm penalizing them because of the fact of the 2 squash fights, but other than that, there wasn't really much argument with this AEW show. This was a really good go home show. I say 8.5 out of 10. Anthony, it's yours.
8.5. As far as this go home show before a pay-per-view goes, these episodes always have the task of trying to not only hype the upcoming event, but also produce a show that night that is worth the price fans paid for admission. Tonight's Collision did a decent job mixing in some good pro wrestling action with the video, along with the video packages and interviews needed to build All In. A couple of the squash matches were unnecessary, but that's a minor complaint in the grand scheme of things. Was it the most memorable episode of Collision? No, not by a long shot. But it accomplished its goal of being a go-home show and a cromulent episode in its own right. The card for All In might not be what some fans were hoping for, but it definitely has plenty of matches that are capable of stealing the show. 8.5. And speaking of All In, let's go all in on our preview here.
All right, and 2 matches had been declared pre-show fights that's normally at the buy-in, but they're nothing to sneeze at here, guys. Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles on the line. Aussie Open, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher versus MJF and Adam Cole. I think it's going to be Aussie Open. I do not see any possible way that MJF and Adam Cole wins this match. I would be stunned if Aussie Open loses these belts on a pre-show of all things. So I don't see it happening unless they pull the rug out from under us. I don't see it. So I say winners and still champions Aussie Open. Anthony, quick thought.
Oh yeah, it's Aussie Open. There's no question about it here. And MF, I mean, if there's ever a time for MJF and Adam Cole for the bromance to implode, I think this is the time for it to happen.
Yeah, this would be it.
Yeah, so winners and still the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. It is Aussie Open. Next match.
All right, and this is for the FTW title. Jack Perry going one-on-one with Hook. Anthony, quick thought?
Hook came out on top tonight, so I got to say Jack Perry retains. I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Perry retains, via, nefarious means, as we always say. So should be a solid match, but right now I gotta go with Jack Perry to successfully retain. That heel act is really catching my eye, and I'm starting to see some glimpses of his late father Luke Perry in him now. So
yeah,
no doubt about it. I'm getting those Luke Perry vibes, especially after the little thing he tried to do tonight with that little belt retirement ceremony that Hook interrupted. So Jack Perry retains. MF.
All right.
Move on.
I agree. I think Jack Perry does win. So off to the main card now. FTR putting the AEW World Tag Team titles on the line against the Young Bucks. Now, if you told me about a week ago who was going to win this, I would have said FTR. But in light of all of the allegations and everything that happened to Dax Harwood, I think now the Young Bucks are going to win the belts. I think, with everything going on and everything else, I think this is the time that the Bucks gets the belt back. I know some people don't want that to happen. They would like to see FTR keep the titles here. But I do believe, in my heart of hearts, I think we're going to see new tag team champions. So I'm going out on a limb here. Winners and new AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks. I think they get the belts back. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Bell to bell, this should be the best match on the card, as no one does high-stakes tag team wrestling like AEW. Before Cash Wheeler's legal situation, I thought it was top guys over. The last thing AEW needs right now is more uncertainty, and putting the title on the Bucks is to save for more stable moves. So I agree. Winners and new AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks. Move on.
All right, next up, a fatal four-way for the AEW Women's title. The champion, Hikaru Shida, puts the title on the line against Toni Storm, Soraya, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Anthony, who you got?
Very tough to call. I'm not going to lie. This is very tough. But Shida just won the title 3 weeks ago, and AEW rarely hot potatoes their world championships. I've seen some talk. I've heard some talk of crowning Soraya because of where the show is, but I don't really see that happening. So I got to say winner and still AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida. But if they want to give Soraya the Davey Boy Smith pop here, I wouldn't be surprised, nor would I be mad at it. But it would be but at the same time, it would be a disservice to Shida. So I got to say Shida retains. But MF, watch out for Soraya because of where it is.
Not only do I know it, I think it's going to happen. I disagree. I think Soraya is winning this belt.
Okay.
I kind of feel like, and it's obviously what you said, I think that they're going to telegraph this, that she's going to get it. And the thing was, I think the Shida one was more of a surprise win more than anything else, because I don't think a lot of people thought she was going to win that title. So I think it was more of a shock that she wanted, where this time it's almost like they were telegraphing this. Remember, I think at the end, this belt was meant for Jamie Hayter. And because
Yes.
she is an England girl and everything else,
She was going to get the belt back here.
I think it's one of those moments that they wanted an English woman to win the title, to win it in London, to get that mega pop. I think Saraya gets the moment. So I'm gonna say winner and new champion Saraya. I think they knew Jamie Hayter wasn't gonna be back in time, so they had to take the belt off of Tony Storm, give it to a baby face in order for Saraya to get the belt and win it in London. So I think that's what's gonna happen. Saraya gets her golden moment at Wembley tomorrow afternoon. So that's my prediction. So next up we have is the coffin match. Sting and Darby Allin against Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage. Sting and Darby. I got like I don't care who you put in that match. Sting and Darby was gonna win it. It didn't matter if it was AR Fox or or Christian Cage. It's gonna be Sting and Darby Allin winning this one. So Anthony, it's yours.
For reasons that remain unclear, AR Fox was replaced with Christian Cage. Even if this was done because Fox had visa issues or is injured or whatever, this is such a confusing mess. I mean, at best, it's another example of sloppy decision making with little foresight. If there was even a risk and he may not be able to make the trip, why have him there in the first place? It's a shame because Fox was a great fit with Swerve, and someone who grinded on the indies as long as he did deserved a spot on the card. If nothing else, All In will do one thing that fans should remember forever. Give Sting a massive, well-deserved platform. 80,000 plus fans going absolutely nuts for the 64-year-old Stinger. It's going to be incredible. He spent much of the internet age of wrestling in TNA before his far too brief WWE run. His one WrestleMania moment was nowhere near good enough for a performer of his caliber. Few things are worse booking decisions than having Triple H beat Sting at WrestleMania 31. Tomorrow, the Icon will get to cap his career on the biggest stage, a stage he so deeply deserves. And I agree. Sting and Darby Allin win the match. If anything else, MF, you already know how I feel about the whole Christian thing after what he did with Nick Wayne the other night.
No.
If anybody deserves to go into the you know what, it's him.
Yeah.
So move on.
Next up,
Sting and Darby.
All right. Next up, we have Is the Best Friends with Penta El Zero Miedo and Eddie Kingston versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Santana and Ortiz. Stadium Stampede. Anthony, who you got?
Wow. This is really not a feud that warrants a spectacle like this. More than most matches on the card, this seems like a way to clearly set up matches at All Out, like maybe Moxley versus Orange Cassidy, Eddie Kingston versus Claudio. Both will be great, but using one of AEW's signature spectacles to get there is backward. This should be the blow-off to a program, not a transition into the next stage. With that being said, it's going to be a fun match, and I can't wait to see it go down. But I don't know why, but my gut is I'm leaning towards Blackpool Combat Club, Santana, and Ortiz. I got this feeling.
I agree.
So I don't know why that other team. I don't know. So BCC, Santana, and Ortiz pick up the win. This is their match.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think there's really much for us to add on that one. Next up, we have is Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho 1-on-1. This one, I don't know where to go with this. I think Will Ospreay's going to win, but I don't know. I feel like Jericho's going to get one over Callis, and I think it's going to be because I think the Jericho Appreciation Society is going to reform. I think they're going to be stronger than ever, more united than ever, and I think that's going to be the X factor in this. So I think it's going to be Jericho getting the win over Ospreay, because Callis is going to try to do something, or he's going to bring his family to try to get involved, and the Jericho Appreciation Society is going to show up, even the odds, and help Jericho get over the finish line. I say Jericho wins in London. Anthony, it's yours.
No, disagree. But the question here, MF, but I do have a question here. Who are we supposed to root for here? Is Jericho supposed to be the sympathetic babyface after being so terrible to his friends that they all left him? How is the audience supposed to root for him when he just tried to link up with someone well established as the most loathsome character on AEW programming? Not only that, but Ospreay's the hometown boy. There's a 0% chance he's getting booed, no matter how hard he tries. And but this is what puts it over the top, MF. Will Ospreay beat Kenny Omega in a match that's on the short list for match of the year? And also, you know this better than anybody, he finally beat Kazuchika Okada.
Yes, he did.
There's no chance he loses in a home game. Disagree. Will Ospreay wins.
All right. Next up we have is for the Reals World Championship, CM Punk puts the title on the line against Samoa Joe. Anthony.
Let me tell you, even though I kind of want to see Joe take this, there are so many other stories to be told and money to be made with CM Punk as the uncrowned champion. I say he keeps the belt. So, winner and still the real world's champion, CM Punk. But make no mistake about it, MF. These two are going to give us another banger of a match, and you know their history way better than I do, so I just give it to you.
Yeah, it dates back all the way to the days of Ring of Honor. These two had wars. Wars is all I can say. Some of them are fight of the year level matches. So are we going to get that again? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not really too sure about it. But I will say this, CM Punk successfully defends the title. I agree with that. Next up we have is the House of Black versus the Acclaim and Billy Gunn for the Trios title. For the longest time, everybody was wondering if this was going to be, when was this going to happen? And the thing was, they were talking about if the Acclaim and Billy Gunn was going to win the titles. This would be the perfect moment. This would be the perfect time. This would be the perfect everything for this to happen. But the House of Black has been so good and so powerful, so dominating. Do you really want to pull the trigger and do that? I'll have to say, yeah. I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get new champions. I think the Acclaim and Billy Gunn's going to win it all. So, Anthony, I'll give it to you.
All right. Getting the Acclaimed on the Wembley card is a great call. They aren't as popular as they were at their peak, but the crowd still loves them and is really going to love Billy Gunn being back. The number one thing a wrestling show should do is make the crowd happy, and few things make a crowd happier than an Acclaimed live entrance. I'm with you, MF. I love the House of Black. They have been workhorses on Collision, and the individual styles of Brody King, Buddy Matthews, and Malachi Black fit so well together. Their presentation is top-notch, and they never disappoint in the ring. However, this is really about giving the fans what they want, and daddy-ass, badass, getting some gold will do exactly that. Again, I disagree, MF. Winners and new AEW Trios champions, the Acclaimed, and Billy Gunn. And I think Billy's going to be the difference maker.
I actually did call for a new champions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got sidetracked for a moment.
Plus on top of that, my throat was getting dry. My throat was getting parched. I needed a drink. So I got my drink. I got it. Good. Okay. Main event for the AEW World Title. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Freeman.
Well, there is another match. There's one other match that we haven't talked about yet. What about the? I don't think we talked about this other match here. This the Golden Elite versus Bullet Club Gold and Konosuke Takeshita.
Oh, okay. I totally bypassed that. I'm sorry. I
No
totally
problem.
whiffed on that. All right, yeah. Golden Elite and Konosuke Takeshita versus Kota Ibushi, Adam Hangman Page, and Kenny Omega. So yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi versus Juice Robinson, Jay White of Bullet Club Gold, and Konosuke Takeshita. Bear with me for a moment here. Yep. So, Collision has become the best weekly wrestling show due in large part to Bullet Club Gold, aka the Bang Bang Gang, which is one of the silliest and best monikers in wrestling. They should lose the Bullet Club part completely and just go by that. Jay White's sense of humor and timing has been a revelation. Collision puts all of its talents in positions to succeed and gives them time to do so. It is consistently the best weekly wrestling show, but I gotta say the Golden Elite goes over. So I say Hangman, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi win this match. So MF, your quick thought.
Total agreement on that one. Golden Elite wins. I got nothing more to add. Now we're in the main event, which is MJF versus Adam Cole. MJF wins. I don't see Adam Cole winning this title because I really believe that they're going to be setting up for CM Punk versus MJF to have the belt, the unifications of the two belts. I think that's where we're heading down the line, and that's my story about it. So I believe winner of the bout and still the AEW World Champion. I think it's gonna be MJF. So Anthony, quick thought.
Regardless of who wins, it would be inexcusable for the show to end without CM Punk coming out to confront the winner. If that's the case, it makes more sense for him to confront MJF than Adam Cole. Closing the show with the two biggest stars in the company setting up the next big title program will give AEW some needed momentum heading into 2024. Winner and still AEW World Champion, it is MJF. MF, we
just a quick thought. Yep, just a quick thing before we head on out of here. Big Three was held earlier today from, oddly enough, from the O2 Arena in London, England. Big news coming out of the Big Three was basically during their All-Star game, Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics performed, played in the game, catching everybody by surprise. Nobody saw this coming. And yeah, I would love to hear a fly on the wall what the NBA must be thinking right now that one of their star players was playing for the Big Three. So props to Jaylen Brown for doing what he did, for doing what he did and representing. And then, of course, in the Big Three final, it was the enemies capturing the title. The enemies wins, winning the Big Three title 50-43 over the triplets. It is the first time that enemies have ever won the Big Three championship, and now they get the possession of the trophy, the championship trophy of the championship trophy, the Dr. J championship trophy. And on top of that, they now get to keep their whole squad. They don't have to lose. They don't lose any players. They get their whole squad for the entire season next year. Yeah, incredible way to close it. But more importantly, unprecedented crowning as history was made and new champions were crowned here today. So that is it, guys. We are done. We will be back tomorrow night for a very special edition of Talking Wrestling TXN as we will be recapping the AEW, the biggest show of the year or the biggest event for AEW wrestling, as it will be AEW's All In from Wembley Stadium in London. We're going to give you our thoughts on what we liked, what we did not like, our personal thoughts of the event. And we will do that at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on this very same channel. So come on back and join us, as it will be myself, Anthony Florio. Hopefully Michael Bullock will be with us as we do this show. But for everybody here, we want to say thank you so much for watching. I want to thank, let me see, who is this? His name is Two and Strat. Thank you for your
second strap.
Second strap. Okay, so second strap. I apologize for butchering the name, but thank you for coming on and leaving that wonderful comment. Yes, R.I.P. to Terry Funk. R.I.P. to Bray Wyatt. And as many of you guys know, we will be back here tomorrow for another episode, and we will do that. So, thank you, Anthony Florio, as always. Thank you guys for watching. And until tomorrow night, so long, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.